Welcome to this media announcement from ITS UK. We're very proud today to unveil our manifesto, looking forward to what the society aims to do to help intelligent transport systems members and also the travelling public over the next 5 years. The manifesto has been quite long in the writing and the planning, and has obviously over the last couple of months needed a couple of tweaks as well, as you can probably imagine. But we think that we are setting out our commitment to be the knowledge hub and promotional platform for transport technology here in the UK, to deliver better value for our members and for the travelling public as a whole. So the 10-point manifesto today explains how the society will support skills development in the industry, promote solutions in the UK and expertise around the world, and specifically ensure that those less able, such as the elderly and disabled, are considered when technological solutions are designed. We're also pledging to help our small and medium enterprises members with procurement and finding funding. We're championing the role of technology in the new world of transport with consideration for the environment, and supporting the delivery of the ITS World Congress 2024 if, as we hope, the bid to host the event is successful. My name is Paul Hudson. I'm Communications Manager here at ITS UK. I'm very pleased to be joined today by our chair, Ryan Hood of TRL, and Jenny Martin, the Secretary General of ITS UK. And I'd like to hand over now to Ryan to say a few words about the manifesto, because it was actually sometime last year when he was Vice Chair, his idea for us to actually set out our plan of action. And so today we're very proud that this has come to fruition. So please welcome Ryan Hood.
Thanks, Paul. I believe this is our first ever manifesto, and really what it tries to do is link our vision that transport technology should be the first option for people to consider when making vital decisions about the future, improvements to our transport infrastructure and optimization of such infrastructure. So it sets out, it's really a bridge towards that future vision. It sets out a 10-point framework, which we will use to prioritize and focus the resources of ITS UK, primarily over the next 2 to 5 years. It's also a communication platform that we can use to keep ourselves accountable and communicate the priorities of the organisation to our membership, to our stakeholders, and to wider society at large. So, in essence, that's the framework, and I'm keen to get on and make sure it's embedded and executed upon.
Thank you very much, Ryan. We'll have questions to Ryan in a moment. First of all, let's just bring in Jenny Martin, long-term Secretary General of ITS UK. And Jenny, I think it's safe to say that many of the things set out in the manifesto are things that ITS UK has been doing over the years, but here we are formalising and crystallising exactly what our commitment is to members and to the travelling public as a whole.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Ryan. Yeah, that's absolutely true. Since we were founded in 1992, yes, most of these things we have been doing with more or less emphasis as circumstances have dictated. But the manifesto will give members the surety that these are our priorities right now, as Ryan says, for a timescale of maybe 2 to 4 years, depending on right now, who knows what the future holds. And it also sets out a framework for us in the Secretariat to work closely with members on achieving these aims. The ITS UK isn't just the Secretariat. I think that's really important. We have a strong history of our members being very active and working with us. And the manifesto makes a really great platform for slightly formalising that work and giving us some stronger direction into the future.
Okay, you've got access to the manifesto. You've been able to read the 10 points of the plan, so I'm not going to read them out here for you. And you've got then the detail of each of those 10 points as well. Let's move on to questions then. And we've had a request from Adrian Tatum of Highways News would like to ask a question. So Adrian, I've enabled you to speak, so please fire away.
Hi Ryan, how you doing?
Hi.
Hi Jenny.
Hi, Adrian.
I was just wondering really why now for this manifesto? I mean, is there a particular reason last year that you decided that now was the time for the organisation to deliver a manifesto?
Shall I start off on that one? Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Adrian. I think several things happened last year, and not least is that we now have Ryan Hood as our chairman. He took over in May, and this is very much his initiative. But so I'll let him speak to the details of why now exactly. But I think it reflects a certain maturity. ITS UK is still a small organisation, but we are far more professional, if that's the right word to use, than we were 20 or even 10 years ago. And this is all part of formalizing what we do and thinking a bit less about reacting here and now and more about having a structured future for ourselves. So I'll leave Ryan to add his own personal thoughts to that.
Yeah. So we went through a process last year through the strategy working group, Adrian, and we came out with a number of priorities from that exercise, and this was one. Essentially, this is a tool, but if you think about ITS UK at the moment, or the ITS industry, it's a £1 billion industry per annum here in the UK, but it's also a rapidly changing one. Not only do you have traditional ITS and how you fund and optimize that, you've got all the new technology, connected vehicles, automated vehicles, electrification, intelligent infrastructure, new mobility, and the new business models that are emerging, and the explosion in data. And you'll have seen lots of initiatives around open data right across government. Of course, you've still then got probably the biggest challenge of our time, climate change and decarbonisation of the transport network. We've got Brexit on the horizon, and of course, right now we've got the challenges around COVID-19 and the isolation economy. So there's a lot going on, but we are quite a focused and small team, and therefore we need to prioritise what we deliver. And I personally felt we were very thinly spread, and therefore we need to focus. And that's the reason for the 10 points really, is that may change over the next 2 to 4 years, but and we'll be actively tracking it on a monthly basis and probably reviewing it on a 6-monthly basis. But it may change, but the idea is if something comes in that we should prioritise our resources on, something should drop out, and we'll make that active decision as a group as to what to prioritise our somewhat limited resources. But you'll notice as part of the plan, we're trying to grow those resources by growing the membership. Hopefully that answers your question, Adrian.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Adrian. And Tom Stone from TTI now joins us. Tom, the floor is yours.
Hi, thank you, Paul. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Tom.
Hi. Yeah, I just wanted to drill down a little bit into. I know the first point I think in the manifesto is about focusing on the bid for 2024. And then, but just thinking in the sort of shorter term and how we get there, obviously there are challenges, immediate challenges with putting on live events and looking, hopefully, I think we're thinking, in the next sort of few months, maybe these events will start coming back. I'm just wondering if there's any policy or recommendation to your members about this, and how we sort of map out from now. I suppose the next really big event is Hamburg, isn't it? In sort of just over a year's time, and how we get there. It's crystal ball time, I suppose. But any plans in place?
Well, shall I take that one, Paul?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So I represent ITS UK on the committee of people working on the 2024 bid for the NEC to host the ITS World Congress. I think the first thing I would say, Tom, is that we are jolly lucky because we are bidding to host something in 2024. That's a lot more comfortable situation than the Germans, who have something coming next year in Hamburg. From the 2024 bid point of view, it's far enough in the future. We are all aware that an international gathering of ITS professionals in 2024 may look any variety of ways. It could be exactly as it has been in the past. It could be something totally different. But the timescale means that we can work with whatever we're going to have in 2024, as ourselves and Ertico, if we're successful in the bid. And we have the flexibility within all interested parties between us, and particularly the expertise of the NEC staff themselves, that we know that we can make something work. Whatever a good ITS World Congress will look like in 2024, we will be able to deliver it. For Hamburg 2021, I think really it's almost anybody's guess. I know we can rely on the Hamburg team to do their very best, but their situation's far more challenging. That, you know, at the moment we're having monthly changes in what we're allowed and not allowed to do, and I can see one scenario when that actually carries on up until Hamburg next autumn. ITS UK is absolutely committed to the congresses, of course, and we will be present in Hamburg in whichever way is appropriate. But I'm so glad that at Hamburg I'm only a delegate, possible speaker, possible moderator, possible exhibitor. I'm not an organizer, because that must be a very uncomfortable position to be in.
Yeah. No ITS UK live events in the calendar at the moment then, and leading up to that between now and Hamburg.
No, we have, again, it's actually a blessing of being small and therefore nimble. We have our first live event in the calendar towards the end of October, which will be our Members' Day, hosted by Cubic down in Surrey. But again, we are approaching that with a complete attitude of flexibility. We very much hope it will be able to be a live event, but if it can't, then it will be online. But I can see that by that time, with sensible social distancing and sensible hygiene arrangements, it may be possible for it to go ahead. If it can't, it can't. But also to answer the question that, you know, maybe you're not asking, but I'm keen to answer. I do see that the future of ITS UK, we will have far large proportion of virtual events than we have had, regardless of what happens about contagion and vaccines and infection rates, because I can see that with the massive effort we've already made on the virtual events, you know, very much thanks to Paul's contribution as well, we are reaching people that we never reached before, people who, for whatever reason, they work for member organizations, but we haven't seen them at our physical events. They are now turning up in large numbers at our virtual events, and I would hate to lose that. And also, there is something there about sustainable transport and carbon footprint and all those things that maybe we've had a bit of a slap round the head with what's been going on the last few months, and we've been pushed into a better direction, and we should carry on traveling that way. Sorry, you didn't actually ask that question, but I've answered it anyway.
No, that was kind of part of what I was thinking about. Yeah, you know, where the virtual events, and do they carry on? And yeah, no, it's a very good point. I have another completely unrelated question, if I may. Just thinking about the manifesto and the sort of, you know, the focus on technology and technology rollout, and how that fits in with. I mean, I'm a big fan of smart motorways, And there's been quite a lot of sort of negative press about smart motorways recently, about, are they more dangerous and whatever. And I'm wondering if, is there a particular ITS UK policy on smart motorways? Do we press ahead with this technology, or do we take a pause?
I will step in first very quickly and say ITS UK often doesn't necessarily take a position. It's up for our members to do that. We can advise and we can give views, but not necessarily get into any sort of lobbying. But the key role that we have taken, and I personally have been involved in several occasions, is actually to explain the thinking, the background and the technology behind things like smart motorways, so that the travelling public maybe get a bit of an explanation, because sometimes they might only get very one-sided views on the idea and the implementation. So our role is generally to put forward the case and the explanation of the technology rather than necessarily the policy. I don't know if Jenny or Ryan want to pick up on that at all.
Okay. Yeah, can I come in? So I think that's exactly right. Things like stop vehicle detection currently provided, key component of the next gen current smart motorways is also part of our membership base in Navtech Radar and other suppliers coming online. Where I would like us to take a more active part is smart motorways as a concept will not stay static. And so my view at the minute, we're on version 1.1, 1.2. There's going to be smart motorways 2.0. There's going to be smart motorways 3.0. And as we transition through that, I'd like us to be demonstrating some thought leadership. For example, smart motorways 2.0 is probably in line with talking traffic in the Netherlands. It's heavily reliant on sensors and communications, V2X. So we'll go through that period, and then some point in the future, probably beyond the vision of our current planning horizon, you're starting to look at fully automated smart roads, essentially. So I think we absolutely need to take or provide a platform for some thought leadership in those positions. But I agree about the current situation and the policy decisions about the current concept, and that's not really a place where ITS needs to be.
No, that's really interesting though, and the 2.0 you envisage being a more connected vehicle environment.
Absolutely. You've seen the trials that are going on at the minute around connected corridors. Yeah. There's a lot to be understood about the benefits of the rollout of that type of infrastructure and what type of infrastructure that is. Is it fixed roadside infrastructure? Is it cellular infrastructure? Is it a hybrid? Whatever it is, it will be a connected road of some description.
And we can point to a couple of things. So first of all, Ryan mentioned stop vehicle detection. One of our members, Navtech Radar, are behind that particular technology. And when we talk about existing products or existing solutions that can be used to help, for example, on smart motorways. Only last week we had our connected vehicle forum talking about eCall, and within that forum there was the talk about how promoting eCall could make smart motorways safer, because if people actually understood what the SOS button meant in their car, if they saw or were involved in any sort of breakdown or any hazard on a smart motorway, pressing that button immediately gives the emergency services the detail of exactly where on the network you are, what direction you're going in, etc., etc., and all that information far quicker. And so there is an instant piece of technology that exists that isn't probably being used to its full potential, and we as ITS UK were able to put forward that as a potential solution, and we can start to work on delivering that with the powers that be. Thank you very much, Tom. We're just running short of time, and Adrian has asked if he could ask another question, so we'll hand the floor back to Adrian to ask a question, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering, you mentioned that earlier you wanted ITS UK to carry on being a knowledge and insight for its members and the wider kind of technology community. You could argue that each of those 10 points are vitally important. So where do you think really the gaps are in knowledge for ITS professionals, and how will that enable you to decide what you prioritize on that list first?
Thank you. Thanks, Adrian. Absolutely. With slightly limited resources, it's important that we concentrate on where we can do the most good. And I think over the last few years, maybe 5+, we put some great efforts into inclusive mobility and using ITS to support elderly and disabled travellers. We put a lot of effort into diversifying the workforce so that it looks slightly more representative of the population it serves than has been the case hitherto. And a lot of emphasis also on supporting new entrants into the profession, usually younger people, but not necessarily. And I think that those are the aspects of the manifesto where we can do the most good, and also where no one else is particularly making much effort. The technology advocacy remains obviously core to what we do, but we can make a difference in other areas as well. And when you say where the members need support, I think maybe there's also a slightly newer field where we need to apply ourselves, and that's to create a greater knowledge within the membership of how policy decisions are actually arrived at. And I'd like to get them more engaged in how you influence those policy decisions, which is both the formal channels of answering government consultations, which is no fun, but which is actually the path they provide for us to use, so we should use it. We can't not respond and then complain about the outcome. But also the fact that a lot of government officials and politicians are actually interested. If you take the trouble to talk to them about what ITS can do, usually you do get a good and interested response. And I think going forward, that's something we should prioritize as well. ITS in my 22 years in the sector, ITS has gone from something almost sort of hocus pocus, a bit like machine learning and AI and IoT is now, like very rarefied, to something that's really mainstream. And I like to think we played our small part in achieving that, but now we need to take it to the next level.
Ryan, do you have anything to add before we wrap up?
I'm going to do the classic of not answering your question, Adrian.
Oh, really?
I'd like to almost think about what the priorities are external to the organisation. And number one on my agenda is decarbonisation of the transport network. Number two is clearly Brexit, which is on the horizon, and then we've got COVID-19, or decovidisation as I call it, right now. And so for me personally, in that priority order, they're what I'll be taking a keen interest on, and making sure that we have the knowledge, we generate the knowledge within the organisation to be able to put forward thought leadership, credible thought leadership from on behalf of the organisation. Underpinning that is clearly a massive skills agenda, because if we look at as I outlined earlier, the challenges, and there are many, but also that we have somewhat aging and male-dominated workforce, the whole and the challenge within the industry of a massive investment in road infrastructure and green infrastructure going forwards, we clearly don't have the workforce ready to deliver on that. So I think that's also a key point that we need to get to grips with.
Thank you very much. There's one other document I'll point you to that's on our website as well. If you scroll down on the home page from just below the news, there is a red button on the right hand side that says, what does ITS UK do? And it lists in bullet points the different things that ITS UK actually delivers for its members, for the wider public, and especially for the early careers professionals as well. So that's another thing. So that document explains what ITS UK does and has done, and the manifesto is then setting out the priorities for the future. Thank you very much to Jenny and to Ryan for their insight there, and thank you very much to you for joining us and asking questions. And if you have any more questions about the ITS UK manifesto, you can get in touch at mailbox@its-uk.org.uk, and we'll answer any questions that you have. For now, thank you very much for joining us.